Hello, I'm Michael Bender, and this micro lesson focuses on the work breakdown structure. The work breakdown structure, WBS, is likely the most well-known as well as one of the most important constructs in project management, and for good reason. If you have a solid WBS, you'll find your project planning will proceed very nicely. If your WBS is weak or you're missing elements, most project managers find they can never catch up on their project. A lot of the material we'll be going over today is based on my book, Defining Project Work Simplified in the Project Management Mini-Series. If you're looking for more information, you'll find it available in most major booksellers. Now, before we go too far, it's important to understand that there are really two different approaches to dealing with the WBS. There's the work approach. Well, that's not surprising. It is called the work breakdown structure. But in the mid-1990s, a lot of us realized that taking a deliverables approach can add a lot of benefit. Now, if you're new to project management or you have a young and less experienced team, I still recommend staying with the work approach. It's kind of the way we think. It's the way we were brought up. The deliverables approach does offer a lot of benefits. However, most people find it difficult coming out of the gate. PMI refers to it as the deliverables-oriented WBS. I just call it a deliverables breakdown structure. Today, we'll focus on the work approach. Now, the WBS is actually quite a simple thing. The work breakdown structure is quite literally the structure of the breakdown of the work. It's a hierarchical diagram showing how the work is summarily decomposed into finer and finer detail as we proceed into the project. It's actually a lot easier than it sounds. So let's go to the whiteboard and we'll show you how it works. So here we are in front of the whiteboard. But before we get into our demonstration, a couple ideas we should go over first. The first one is kind of one of the most important. Why do we bother doing a WBS? What is its purpose? What's it supposed to do? Well, the goal of the WBS is actually quite simple. The goal of the WBS is simply to identify all the work that has to be done in the project. That's it. We don't care about sequence. We don't care about resources. We don't care about cost. A lot of project managers delve into these too early. What we care about simply is identifying all the work that has to be done in the project to make it successful. Now, if you've been around projects for a while, you know that the WBS is not the only breakdown structure in project management. Well, I've already introduced you to the deliverables breakdown structure. There's also a couple others: goals breakdown structure, resource breakdown structure, and a few others. All breakdown structures follow the same pattern. We're going to take a high-level element, decompose it down into smaller elements, take each of those and decompose them down into smaller elements. There are two rules for all breakdown structures. Rule 1. When we decompose, the decomposition must be complete. Nothing missing. And rule 2 is rule 1's converse. We don't want to do any extra work. Rule 2, nothing extra. When I'm running a project, that's all I think about all day. Nothing missing, nothing extra. Nothing missing, nothing extra. Nothing missing, nothing extra. I do it for work. I do it for requirements. I do it for resources. I do it for cost. I do it for everything. Are we sure we have everything we need to make this project work? Is there anything we're doing that we really don't need? With those two concepts in mind, let's go ahead and do a quick demo of a work breakdown structure. And again, for this, we're going to focus on a work perspective. We're going to take a work approach to this. So you're going to see that my activities are going to start with verbs. And we're going to do a nice simple project. Let's mow the lawn. So here's my project. Mow lawn and I simply need to determine all the steps we have to do to mow the lawn. Well, when I'm mowing the lawn, I obviously don't want to do it in good clothes. I want to do it in work clothes, and I want some good solid boots. I don't want to slip. So the first thing I'm going to do is get dressed. And again, we're going to use a verb. Next thing I'm going to do, let's get the numbering sequence right here. That's a little better. Next thing I'm going to do, open the garage door. I'm going to pull the lawnmower out. I'm going to fill it with gas. And then I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. I just kind of go around the house. First, I'm going to start in the front. I'm going to move to the left side. I'm going to move to the back. Then I'm going to move to the right side. I'm then going to put the lawnmower away. And then I'm going to take a shower. And as you can see, we're using an outline format here. This is the most popular of the formats that we can display at WBS, and for good reason. It's easy to do. You can do it in any word processor. You can do it in Excel or any spreadsheet. And you will find that most of the project management software does it this way. It's not my favorite, but it is easy to do. Now, I can take each one of these, of course, and decompose them down a little bit in more detail. Let's just fill the mower with gas. I might have 1.4.1, remove cap. 1.4.2, remove cap from the gas can. 1.4.3, fill mower. 1.4.4, replace the caps. We'll just put those all into one. And 1.4.5, store gas. So as you can see, I can be quite detailed with this. In our next demonstration, we'll look at my favorite way of doing it. We'll use a hierarchical chart. We'll see you in a few minutes as soon as I clean the board. Well, we're back at our clean whiteboard, and for this demonstration, we're going to produce a hierarchical diagram. We're also going to make the project a little more complex. Now, it may not seem it at the beginning, but as you will soon see, this one is actually a little bit more challenging than one might think. We're going to buy groceries. So for a hierarchical diagram, each one of the activities will be represented by some box. And again, we're going to use a work approach. So I'm going to use verb noun format. We're going to buy groceries. Now, if you've been around projects a while, you may be familiar with the concept of phases. Well, what's a phase? A phase is a collection of work or deliverables designed to achieve a particular subsegment or sub-goal of the project. We'll get into more detail in a different micro lesson, but this one will be pretty simple, so we'll go ahead and put them in here. So what might be the phases of buying groceries? Well, the first thing I need to do is kind of prepare. I'm going to need a list. I'm going to have to get the car ready. I'm going to have to figure out what store I'm going to, get money. So let's have a preparation phase. Prepare to shop. Well, if I'm prepared to shop, I have money, I have a list, I'm all ready to go, I'm likely at the store. What do we do now? Well, we're going to walk up and down the aisles, collect our goods, and pay for them. Let's use some formal project management terminology for this. We'll call it procure groceries. Well, once they're procured, they're going to be sitting in a cart. I'm going to be taking them out to the car. I need to transport them home. Somewhere along the line, transportation suddenly became called logistics. I'm going to call it transportation. Transport. Groceries. Well, I got them home. Now what do I do? Well, I got to put them away. Put them in things in the freezer and the refrigerator. Being a project management lesson, we're going to restock inventory. Now, if you live alone, you probably don't have to do the next step. If you don't live alone, you have a family, you have some friends crashing with you, you're going to need to do a review. Dear, they didn't have the cheese you liked. I got this. Is that okay? Well, we now have our phases. Again, we're just going to summarily decompose each one of these into smaller detail. So what do we need to do to prepare? Well, you've all gone grocery shopping. You know how this works. I don't know how many tick marks I need here. I'm going to have to create a list. I'm going to have funds. Let's call it acquire funds. I'm going to need to prepare the car, make sure I have the keys, make sure the trunk is clean. I'm going to have to select a store. And I'm going to have to go to the store. I don't think I need that one. And I don't think I need that one. Again, nothing missing, nothing extra, nothing missing, nothing extra. Let me see. At the end of this, will I be prepared to shop? I'll need a list at the store. I have money. I have my car. Looks pretty good. Next, procure. Well, what do we need to do that? Well, let me see. I'm going to get a cart. I'm going to select my items. I'm going to pay for items. Yeah, they're procured. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and I'll catch up with you as soon as I'm done. Okay, so I've loaded the rest of them up, and I'll just go through them real quickly for you. After we've paid for our groceries, we're going to load them in the car, and depending on who's doing this, I've noticed that both genders tend to do this. I'm a guy, I'm going to open the chip bag. I'm going to drive home, consume chips, and then I'm going to dispose of the evidence. And I know what some of you are saying, but wait a minute, nothing missing, nothing extra. Isn't that extra? No, it's remuneration for a job well done. All right, so I get home, I'm going to restock the freezer, restock the fridge, restock the pantry, and it's perfectly okay to do a one-to-one. I do this all the time. So review is small enough, I'm just going to copy it down here. And the only reason I do that is I like each layer to be complete. That's one of the reasons I do that. Now again, we can take each one of these and decompose them down a bit further. So how do we create a list? Give myself some room. Don't know how many tick marks I'll need yet. Well, when I'm doing this at a live seminar, most people say, well, you got to check inventory. To which I say, against what? Well, what you want. I say, well, if I live alone, that works perfectly fine. But if I don't live alone, I need to consider my other stakeholders in this project. So, what do? First thing we're going to do is what we do in almost every project. One of the first things we do in almost every project, interview the customer. Find out what they need. Interview customer. For those of you who've been around a while, you call it gathering requirements. Once I know what everybody needs, are we having any barbecues, are we having any friends over, is there anything particular we want to eat this week? Once I understand that, I can create a list of menus. Once I have my menus, I can go in my cookbooks and figure out what ingredients I need. Except this is a project management class, so we'll use a little bit more formal technology. I'm going to create a bill of materials or a BOM. Now, I have a list of everything I need for this week's shopping. Now I can go and check inventory. And then the bill of materials tells me everything I need. The inventory tells me what I have. The only thing I need to do now is conduct a gap analysis. You call it a shopping list, but isn't that what a shopping list is? It's simply a gap analysis of what you need versus what you already have. And I can continue to do this for the rest of them. I don't think I really need to, but let's spot check one or two. Acquire funds. Well, we might have to make an assumption here. The assumption we might have to make is I actually have enough money to go grocery shopping. Anytime I make an assumption in a project, I write it down and confirm it. Assumptions. 1. Yeah, you probably can't see that color. Let's go to blue. We have money. We have enough money. Well, it might be in the wrong place. I might need to move some money from savings to checking, or I might need to move it somewhere else. So I'm going to need to select mode of transportation or mode of exchange. I need to acquire mode of exchange. In other words, I need to get my checkbook or my credit card. I might need to transfer funds. And that should probably do. I probably don't need the rest of those tick marks. Let's just pick one more. Get cart. Well, you've all been grocery shopping, you know how this works. Get cart, return cart, find cart with 4 good wheels. And I can continue as we need. I happen to prefer the hierarchical chart to the outline. It simply communicates what's happening in the project better, especially to people less familiar with project management. When I'm showing a typical project WBS in outline format to a senior manager, it just looks like a bunch of words that they don't get. If I do it in this format, it is much easier for them to understand all the work that's going on in the project, and therefore easier for me to get resources from them. We'll catch you up in a few minutes. In this micro lesson, we've introduced you to the work breakdown structure. We know that there are two approaches to the WBS. There's the work approach, which I recommend for new and young project managers as well as less experienced teams. There's also the deliverables approach, which, while it does offer some benefits, is usually a little harder to get right coming out of the gate. We know that there are two ways of displaying the WBS. There's the outline format, as we showed you in mowing the lawn, and there's the hierarchical format, which we showed you when we were buying groceries. Personally, I prefer hierarchical. It just communicates the plan a lot better to the team, stakeholders, senior managers. We know that there are two rules for all breakdown structures. Rule 1, the decomposition must be complete, nothing missing. And Rule 2 is Rule 1's converse, nothing extra. We don't want to be doing any extra work we don't need to do. We've also introduced you to project phases. I hope this lesson has given you some insight into project planning, and I look forward to seeing you in another micro lesson. May all your projects be successful.